One of the things that there's a couple key points that I want you to kind of make a note of, right? You should pull your turkey out of the refrigerator an hour before you're going to roast it. This kind of gets it a little more even temperatured, and you're going to get a much nicer cooking throughout the entire turkey. The other item that you want to make sure is we have our oven preset at 450 degrees, and that's where we're going to put the turkey in and sear it for 30 minutes. And then turn it down to 350 degrees for 30 minutes for 2 hours. And every 30 minutes, we're going to baste it, and we'll get into that with the basting. I'm going to tilt my screen down so you can see the cutting board at times, so you can see what we're doing, especially when we break down the turkey. But we're going to talk a little bit about brining and a roasting method that those of you who remember Mom and Grandma sticking the turkey in a brown garbage bag, almost and putting it in the oven. This is a similar kind of technique with using cheesecloth. So it'll help kind of baste the turkey, keep it moist, and then also when it comes down to browning, we'll pull off the cheesecloth and brown it. So our first step will be to take our turkeys, and we're using chickens here today for a little bit of a quicker method. All right, because we're not going to sit here and wait for a turkey to roast all day. But probably about a 17-pound turkey on average is what you would want to have for your house. Again, these have been sitting out for about an hour, and you can see the skin is kind of dry. Now, if you brine your chicken, you're going to want to put it in the refrigerator after you take it out of the brine and let it air dry a bit. Otherwise, your skin's going to be soggy and wiggly. Air drying it in the refrigerator will kind of dry it up a little bit. But we're going to take our cloth just to dry it off a bit, right? We're going to take some softened butter, and we're going to brush it generously because on Thanksgiving, we're not worried about cholesterol. We're not worried about eating too much. And this is going to help prevent the cheesecloth from sticking, but it also gives you some nice flavor. So now, if you want to stuff your turkey, you're going to have to cook it longer. And you want the stuffing to get to 165 degrees internal temperature to avoid any kind of foodborne illness problems. I don't really like stuffing the turkey, and obviously when we're cooking 60, 70, 80 turkeys here at the club, we don't stuff them either. It slows down the cooking process, and for us, the volume of stuffing, we go through, 100 pounds of stuffing easily, if not more, just in bread alone, not to mention 50 pounds of sausage, carrots, celery, and onions. It's massive. So the stuffed turkeys just wouldn't be practical. So we buttered up our turkey, this chicken. I'm going to season it with salt and pepper on the outside. A little bit of salt on the outside as well. You can stuff the cap.
Just for the salt, or the butter, is it salted or unsalted?
It's not that critical because you're seasoning it with salt and pepper as well. So if you're using salted butter, use a little less salt. If you're using unsalted butter, you can use a little bit more. Now, I like to stuff the cavity with a little bit of citrus and juniper. So I'll just cut up some orange, a little bit of lemon. I'll take some juniper berries, and we're going to crush those just slightly. And you can crush those just to kind of open them up a little bit. And I'm going to put those in our bowl, right? And now you can add some rosemary, thyme. Right now, because the club is closed, we don't have a lot of product in-house, so I'm just going to throw some mint leaves in here that we're using in the bar. but you can use rosemary, thyme. It's just as nice. And we're going to stuff that into the cavity of the turkey or the chicken. And you're not going to save this later. But it really gives a nice aromatic flavor to the bird. And then we're going to tie it. So we're just going to wrap it around the legs. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to. So I'll kind of loop it around a little bit so it stays tight. And then we're going to put that on a roasting pan. So that's one way to do it. If you want to just tie your chicken, we're going to take about a piece of string right in the middle. We're going to hook it to the neck, under the wings, back behind the breast, and we're going to give it a tight turn. So I don't know if you can see that, but it really plumps up the breast. And then we wrap that around the legs again. And we just tie that. So that's really how you would really nicely truss a chicken. A turkey you can't because the neck isn't there, right? And the turkey, you're going to have the flap of skin that you're going to fold the wings under and tuck the skin underneath. So we're going to put this on a roasting pan. And you want a wire rack underneath. The only ones I have now are massive, so we're not going to do that right now. But what you'll do is our cheesecloth that I was talking about, I have melted butter and white wine. So for a 17-pound turkey, you're going to want to have about 4 sticks of butter and a bottle of white wine because you're going to be basting this turkey every half hour as you have it in the oven at 350 degrees. When you put it in the oven, you're going to want to put it in the oven with the legs in first because they take longer to cook. So that'll help even out the cooking process. All right. But we're going to take this cheesecloth now. It's 2 little layers of cheesecloth and actually just mix it right into the butter and wine mixture. And kind of let that get really soaked in.
Did you already put something on the turkey?
And then we're going to cover the bird with it around all the edges.
On top of it, it looks white. Oh, okay.
And we're going to put that in the oven. Again, 425 degrees at a high sear at 30 minutes. You're going to put the leg side in first. And then after a half hour, you're going to baste it again. So we're constantly going back and we're taking this butter mixture and the wine mixture and we're coating the cheesecloth because we want to keep it moist because you don't want it sticking to the skin. So every half hour, you're going to really generously baste. Let me show you that. So you're going to really generously baste the cheesecloth after a half hour of cooking, every half hour, to keep it moist. The skin will still brown underneath. So that's kind of what you're going to do with the turkey every half hour.
Chef, what's the timing for cooking?
So about for a 17-pound bird, you're probably going to go about 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe. You're going to have a half hour at the 425 degrees, and the remaining 2 hours, the remaining time or remaining 2 hours at 350 degrees at a much lower temperature. And you want to have the internal temperature of the thickest part of the thigh at 165 degrees. So you want to use a meat thermometer to stick in there. We use these pots. Make sure that it was at 165 degrees to prevent, the raw or any foodborne illness issues as well. So that's how you would do that. Now, if you want to brine it, the ratio is about for 1 gallon of water, 2 cups of brown sugar to 1 cup salt. So that's the basic, right? You can add any kind of, if you want to add bourbon to it, if you want to add orange segments and stuff to make it more citrusy, you could. If you wanted it more savory, you could put garlic and other kind of herbs in there that would make it more savory and not as sweet. And you would brine it overnight, maybe 2 nights. Really, once the osmosis takes place and there's an equilibrium between what's been absorbed and what's on the outside with the liquid, it stops working. So longer doesn't mean better. And again, you'll take it out of the brine. You let it air dry in the refrigerator so your skin crisps up when it happens. So that's this. So this will go into the oven. This is a chicken, but what will happen when it comes out? So these have been roasted and basted. The one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to start carving your turkey the minute it's out of the oven. You want to wait a half hour before you start carving and breaking down your turkey. The reason for that is it's going to be 1, super hot, 2, all your juices are going to bleed right out of your turkey. So it's important that you let it rest for at least 30 minutes after it comes out of the oven. And then you'll be able to kind of handle carving this pretty straightforward and pretty easily. So are there any questions right now about roasting the turkey? I keep saying chicken because it's a chicken in front of me, but the turkey.
If there are any questions too, feel free to put them in the chat box. I can relay them to Chef.
No questions? Okay. So you can see the size of our sheet pans here. These are huge. So at home you have a small roasting rack. It should be pretty straightforward.
Chef, sorry, one question. How much additional time did you add for stuffing?
See, you have to really kind of judge it by the temperature of the stuffing inside. You want the stuffing to get to 165 degrees as well. So you almost have to kind of keep poking in and checking after the 2.5 hours. It really depends on how much stuffing you put in. Some people stuff the neck cavity as well, stuff the carcass. It's been so long since we've actually done stuffed turkey, and I'm actually here for Thanksgiving for the last 27 years, so I've actually never cooked the turkey at home. So I don't know, but the ideal thing is the internal temperature of the stuffing has to be 165 degrees. So we're gonna break.
Chef, I have a few more questions for you.
Okay.
What if you want to barbecue your turkey?
So you're talking about barbecuing it whole or splitting the back open and laying it out on the grill?
I guess whichever you recommend.
You mean like in a smoker or?
If you want to tune in, I see that was your question about barbecuing the turkey. I don't know if you have plans to do so this Thanksgiving.
I'm sorry, Rachel, I didn't hear the question.
That's okay. We'll come back to that question if I can get more. You said to barbecue the whole turkey on a Weber grill.
So you want to make sure the heat is very low. You want to keep it covered. If it's a big Weber grill, you want your heat on one side. After you get the initial sear, I would move the turkey off to the side where there is no heat and keep the oven down. And if you're smoking it or you have a pellet smoker, just let that kind of filter in, but not on the direct flame. You want it off to the side at a low temperature and let it kind of slowly roast in there, in off to the side instead of directly on the open flame.
Okay, and Chef, a couple more questions here, which is great. To cover the turkey with foil while it's resting.
I'm sorry, Rachel.
That's going to cover the turkey with foil while it's resting.
If I cover the turkey with foil,
While it's resting.
yes, yeah, you definitely can do that. And that prevent, again, it's like the cheesecloth almost, the aluminum foil, but make sure you butter your turkey pretty well so that the foil doesn't stick to your skin, because you don't want to pull the foil off and have all your skin come off as well.
Great. And you said to put it in legs first, turn it while it's roasting fast.
So you want to put the legs in the back of the oven, because that's where more of the heat is, right? When you keep opening the oven door, the back is going to be hotter, and it allows it to cook faster. The leg meat. So.
Great. And what type of
I like any kind of white would do, but I like Riesling. It's nice for this. A Chardonnay, if you're looking for that more buttery kind of profile. So I prefer white, obviously, and it's not that critical for what you're doing with it, because it's really just evaporating out, and it's just really to keep some flavor, but I don't think you're going to really pick up a big nuance between a good quality wine and a lesser one in this particular situation. It's like cooking with extra virgin olive oil. If you're using that in your pan, it's really meant for a flavoring agent, right? So you're going to lose a little bit of that if you're using it as oil to saute something in. So it's not as critical for this.
Great. And I noticed put anything underneath the skin in the cavity of the bird.
So I with the brushing and the basting, it's really because you're basting it constantly. But if you didn't want to deal with the cheesecloth, you could tuck some of the compound butter, make a butter with herbs or garlic, or even get some Boursin cheese and put that under the skin. Something that's already got like a garlic herb flavor to it. If you want to tuck it, I'm kind of a bit of a purist when it comes to turkey, because I like everything else. I could go without the turkey and eat just everything else that's going on the table instead of the turkey. So I like this to be pretty basic. Again, stuffing it, aromatics will penetrate. And if you're basting it constantly, the moisture will be there. And if you brined it, it really will be a very moist turkey or chicken in this case. So you want to get to carving it, or any more questions?
I think that's all the questions we have right now. Thank you, Steph.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna break this down and carve it now. Now, obviously, this is a little easier to handle than a turkey. I'll be right back. Hold on.
I don't know how long this is. Because
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the string off that we tied the turkey with, right?
already started.
And again,
It was like that.
these have rested about a little less time for a chicken because it cools down faster. And we'll do this twice. We're going to cut on each side. So you have a boning knife. You might want a bigger knife as well, just if we have to cut through some bones. But you really shouldn't have to cut through any bones. We're going to be going in the joints and the cartilage, and it should be very easy to do. So you're going to cut each side of the legs. Same thing on your turkey, right? So if you can see that, and you're going to pop the joints. And a turkey, you may have to push down a little on it, but you'll feel it pop out of the socket. With that, you're gonna just kind of cut along the joint line, and you shouldn't even have to really push too hard because it's right there, right? So you popped. I don't know if you can see the joint there, but you're really just going to push through. So it's not that hard to to contend with. So now in the turkey, you're going to take out the wishbone. And you're really going to be able to see the wishbone on the turkey. So you're going to cut down. I'm going to just remove some skin here so you can see what I'm doing. But in here is where the wishbone is, right? On each side of the breast. And the reason why you want to do that, it makes it easier to remove the breast later. So here's one piece of the wishbone. Now the turkey wishbone is probably going to stay together better. But this will make it easier. By removing the wishbone, it'll be easier to take the breast. So then you're going to go down the keel bone on each side of the keel bone. I don't know if you can see that. And you're just going to kind of follow it down. And this is where you would bump into the wishbone, right? And then you'll repeat that on the other side as well. And then you're gonna take the wing and break the wing, get in that joint and just cut the joint there. And the same thing on the other side. And that'll be your wings. Slide this back a bit. Move that back a bit. So with the leg, what you'll do on the turkey is you're going to cut down to the joint and you're just going to break it. And you see how it pops out? And then you just pull that out, and that's your drumstick. Then on the leg, the thigh, you're going to go on each side of the thigh to pull out the thigh bone. Now this is small, but if it was the turkey, you would probably slice that as well. So again, you would cut down at the joint, break it back in. If you can see the cartilage there, you're just going to put the knife there and pull it. We're going to pull it over underneath. Cut on each side of the thigh bone and just pull the thigh bone out. Our wings, we're not going to do much with these, right? Just we'll put them on the platter. Now, it all depends on, right? Everybody wants a little bit of skin on the breast, so we're gonna go at an angle, and it really is your choice of how thick you want this. And you want to fan that out maybe a little bit, right? So I don't know if everybody knows, but we have a pie contest coming up soon on the 17th, and we're looking to have some top pie recipes come in, which will be fun. And we're going to bake the pies, and we're going to have a pie contest to see who has the best pie recipe. So look at your calendars for that.
We do have Ron Ben Israel.
And again, the turkey will take up a lot more space. So again, we remove the string, cut each breast, pop the legs Obviously, a chicken is a little bit more forgiving and easier to do. Now, I don't know, my grandmother used to call this a Pope's nose for some reason, and she loved it. But I'm not quite as adventurous as my grandmother was when it came to that.
Chef, any tips for sharp using knives? Your knives are much sharper than some of
You know, if you go to my house, you wouldn't know this is what I do for a living. But I actually like using a Cuisinart sharpener because it makes it pretty simple. You just run your blades through. But for us, we'll use a whetstone and go back and forth at an angle on the stone, and then we use our steel to kind of sharpen it at the same angle.
Jeff, how much, what's the weight you recommend for certain party size? Like how many pound bird for people stick to?
Well, I think 4 is tough with a turkey, right? So that's, you think about maybe, we're figuring for our Thanksgiving finished product about 5 pounds per family for a family of 4 right now in our Thanksgiving to-go kits that we're doing. And if all this seems a little overwhelming, we can do it for you as well. We're doing Thanksgiving to-go here at the club. We've got a great menu put together for you, and we're very excited to be offering that as well. We also have wine kits for it. You can do a combination of white and red if you want. And we have a nice a wine kit ready for that as well.
I just put the link for that.
So you can see,
as well. So
it can be if you want to carve the turkey at your table, whole. That I probably should have saved the one word for that, but. And then if you wanted to garnish it, depending on what you stuffed it with, you can do just a little random garnish on the platter.
Jeff, we have a question about slicing turkey breast versus slicing chicken breast. Is it so much larger of a bird? Would you use the same technique?
You're going to get a better yield out of it actually if you use the same technique. If you try, if the whole bird, and this is a tough one to say, but if you were just carving like this on the bird, slices like you see on the Butterball commercials on TV, you're going to leave a lot of meat on the bones. And then that's the oyster, right? I don't know if everyone knows that there's 2 sockets here that's called the oyster. Here, like you can see, they're still here. I love these things. So that's by the thigh, and we call those the turkey's oysters. It's just a muscle that's inside the thigh. Rachel, did I answer your question? I guess.
Did. I was just going to ask you, and actually, Carol, you just made the same comment. With the leftover bones, what are your suggestions for starting a turkey burn?
Okay, so Thanksgiving Day, what we do here, we have a massive kettle, and we put a lot of the. So you can see, I mean, that's one way to present it, or you can present the whole bird at the table and carve. But what we'll do is we'll make turkey soup. Typically, we'll have turkey soup the next day here at the club. And then with some of the other leftovers that we have, we always have enough sweet potatoes and mashed potatoes left because we can't run out of those. But we'll do like a butternut sweet potato bisque And you can liven it up with like coconut oil, madras curry. You know, you can really, garam masala can really kind of give a nice little different spin to some of the leftovers. But typically we'll do that. We'll pick the meat off and then we'll do chicken pot pies or turkey pot pies or turkey fricassee or things like that that really are comfort foods, but they usually end up the day after Thanksgiving in the employee dining room, right? Because Friday we're very slow here on Friday, the day after. So the employees eat pretty well on the day after Thanksgiving as well. So.
Chef, can you talk about using the bone to make the broth and how long you let that?
So the carcasses, because they're already cooked, you can let them go. I mean, I like when we make a chicken soup at home, I'll put it on the stove at a very low heat for hours, right? Just until the meat's falling off the bones. And so if you want to use this, I would add carrot, celery, onions as your mirepoix for the stock, maybe a sprig of thyme, peppercorns in a sachet bag with some aromatics as well. And then I would cook it for like 2 to 3 hours. You're going to get a nice broth out of that because the bones are already cooked and brown. The meat's still stuck to the carcass, and you'll get a nice broth out of that for a soup.
One thing really that I guess is with the wishbone, you need to let that dry before you.
Yes, yeah. We always have that on the stove, and then it's always a battle who's going to get to do it when you have 3 kids, right? When it's 2, it's easy. But there was always like, who's going to do it this year, right? So, but yeah, you have to let that dry out. And, I mean, I've seen my kids do it with their pinkies to pull it apart and holding it and pulling it apart. I don't know what the right way is, but those days are kind of going now too because they're much older. So now they're sitting down having wine with the rest of us.
Any other questions for Chef about carving or flavoring or any Thanksgiving tips or any favorite sides, or doesn't have to just be about roasting the bird?
So that's all I have on my end. If there's any other questions, don't forget that we are featuring Thanksgiving dinner here at the club. We already have quite a few reservations for it for pickup. We do have a limited supply, so please, reach out. The deadline and cutoff is November 17th. So you have to order food and get everything ready for that as well. And it'll be all packaged with cooking instructions, recipes, which we'll have online as well. And it'll hopefully be able to continue the tradition of the Yale Club Thanksgiving, but in a little different way. And then don't forget the wine kits too. We love those.
Yes, and the links are in the chat box for the to-go Thanksgiving. Chef, I know you mentioned you love the sides. What are your favorite Thanksgiving sides?
So I'm a big fan of sweet potatoes. And my wife's family, I don't even call them sweet potatoes. It's more like butter and brown sugar with a sweet potato kind of passed over it. So they are really candied and sweet. They're really great. I'm a big mashed turnip rutabagas. I love those. It kind of takes me back to my and uppa when we had Thanksgiving with them. And they were always had the turnips on the table, mashed turnips with black pepper in them. And I couldn't get enough of those. The roast Brussels sprouts are great too with the pecans. I mean, at home I put a lot of bacon in everything with the Brussels sprouts, but those are kind of my 3 go-to dishes. And of course the stuffing, right? And you got to have sausage in it. I'm a sausage guy, I'm not a big fan of like apples and everything else. It's just onion, celery, sausage, sage, poultry seasoning, chicken, turkey stock, and I'm good to go.
That's great. And can you talk a little bit about how you make the cranberry sauce?
So we do a cranberry relish here, and it's taking some oranges and lemons and cranberries and sugar, and just kind of putting them in. Make sure the seeds are out of the oranges and the lemons. I mean, we push it through a meat grinder, to kind of break it up, but you can do it in a RoboCoupe and pulse it, and just kind of add. So it's really nice citrusy tartness of the cranberries. The sugar balances out a little bit, So that's the kind of cranberry relish that we do here at the club. And then obviously the ocean spray canned cranberry sauce. Got to have that, right? The jelly sauce. So we do both here at the club for those of you that remember it. And we go through quite a bit of it. You know, we'll probably go through easily 25 gallons of homemade relish on Thanksgiving Day, because we serve about 800 members on our 3 buffets. It's a busy day. For those of you who count your steps, 30,000 steps on Thanksgiving Day. 14 miles. Up and down stairs. It's great. So,
Chef, if you were not doing Thanksgiving at the club, how would you spend the holiday?
so we've actually, in my family, we've done Thanksgiving on Saturday. So we'll go down to my mother-in-law's at Long Beach Island, and my brother-in-laws come up from LBI, North Carolina, and DC, and we do it. We used to do Thanksgiving on Saturday because I was never there, so they shifted it all to Saturday, and it was better for the whole family because each brother-in-law could spend it with their families down in their areas, and then we would all get together on Saturday. Now we call it pizza giving because it's just too much work on Saturday to do Thanksgiving, so it's a little tougher for my mother-in-law to handle it. So we get our pizzas, we get together, we go to the beach, we run the dog, we throw the footballs, a little Kennedy Thanksgiving on the beach, and we're off and running. So,
That's great.
how about yourself, Rachel? What are your plans?
Well, this year we'll be at my in-laws' house for Thanksgiving. So we do Thanksgiving at the in-laws. So we'll be out in Western New Jersey as opposed to Long Beach Island.
Well, if you don't want to go through all this at home, I don't want to keep plugging it, but give us a call. We've got a beautiful package ready for everybody. So if there's no other questions, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Everyone enjoy their Thanksgiving, and looking forward to seeing those of you getting our pickup meals, and then also opening up. We are opening in the lounge this week for cocktails and small plates. So if you're interested, please stop by. The doors are open.